Hi, I'm Jessica Hartley, and I'm a member of the career advising team in CSOM. I'm going to walk you through networking in a work from home world. Certainly, the circumstances have changed over the last month, and so we want to talk about some creative ideas of what you can do while you are at home, and also having conversations with BC alumni and other professionals who are at home themselves. So why network now? It may feel like a strange time to be reaching out to people and asking for their time, but it actually is a great time to be doing so. People are always willing to help students in a tough moment of time, and this is certainly one of those tough moments. And you always have that excuse of being a student. Even when we go back to life, normal life, you can always play the student card in wanting to learn from a professional and a BC alum, always an excuse that you can rely on. Right now, things are changing rapidly, and this is a great way to find out, okay, what are some of the functions that might survive moving forward? What are some of the ways companies are changing? So if you're finding this information now, it's a great way to kind of prepare, maybe pick up different skills, network with other people in those growing areas, and maybe pull back from other areas that may not do as well when we come out of this. As always, it's a great way to learn about the day in the life. We can read tons of information online about what it's like to be in that particular occupation, that field, that particular company. So sometimes there can be a little bit of what's the myth that's out there, and talking with those alums, those professionals, you can get a good feel for the reality of what it's like in a day-to-day basis and make some judgment calls. Does it match with what your values and your skills are and what you want to use on a daily basis? As always, it can open up more opportunities, different things that you hadn't thought of, and even more. Networking now can perhaps unearth mini projects that you can do from home. That might be the critical thing moving into May and June and possibly July. You can brainstorm ideas. What are things they think you should be looking at? What are ideas they may have for the skills that you enjoy using? What are companies that might be doing things of interest based on what you've communicated to that alum that you are interested in? And, we're kind of also turning a little bit inward, working from home, taking classes online from home. Networking contacts can be really helpful in finding local experiences, things that you can do right now as we move into May and June. And as always, building and growing that web of contacts for the future is definitely going to pay off. And even if you are going to be entering this summer for a full-blown experience virtually, or maybe a shortened experience this summer of just 2 weeks, it's a great way to kind of stay on top of and continue to get a good feel for what that company's culture is like. What are some of the networking resources that are out there? The Eagle Exchange, we're going to talk about that in a moment. LinkedIn, we're also going to talk about as well. There's the Boston College Career Community. You can find that. It's a closed group on LinkedIn managed by the Career Center. All you simply have to do is click the request to join button. It's a rich community with over 15,000 Boston College students and alumni. You can directly message members who are in that group, regardless if they are a second or third connection, which is super advantageous. You can also post questions directly to the forum, asking alumni for different suggestions. The Shea Center has been running virtual events. Those are really easily findable, both on their website, and This Week in CSOM has been featuring those virtual events the Shea Center has been running. So it's a great way to sit in 20, 30 minutes. What would have normally been lunch with a leader, lunch with an entrepreneur, has just moved to the online format. Great people to follow up with too as well. If you already took Accelerator, you're an older student, think back, who were the Eagle experts I was matched with for the mock interview, or who did I choose to do my info interview that semester? Reach back out to those contacts, reopen that connection with them. The Boston College Career Center also manages the Summer Student Experience database, so think about networking with your peers and getting ideas from them. It's available, it's a spreadsheet available off of their internships page, and you can sort by location that the student worked in. You can sort by company, and there are a couple of different sheets focusing in on everything from different business facets to communications, arts, and media. Thinking local. It seems very strange to be saying that right now. At BC, we come from all over the country to Chestnut Hill, but right now life is pretty local. So talking with neighborhood contacts, people that we can bump into sort of on the street at a socially safe distance. They may have ideas of things that you could do super short term in June, helping out maybe a local business with social media, or even a nonprofit that could use help with their databases. And try to stay positive. It feels so tough right now to be positive, especially if you are a senior or junior and life feels really uncertain right now. Try to stay as positive as possible in posts that you put out on LinkedIn and different things like that. It will pay off to stay positive. What is the Eagle Exchange? Let's talk a little bit about this. The Eagle Exchange is a database of Boston College alums who have opted in very, very recently. So just last summer, they opted into this database to be part of it, to offer advice, tips, all that kind of great stuff to the Boston College student population. There's over 3,000 alumni on there. It does work similar to the Eagle Expert platform. If you've taken Accelerator, when you go on, you log on, you activate your account, you fill out your profile, you're matched with possible matches, people that according to your algorithm with your profile may have similar interests and may be worth looking at. So that could kind of help narrow where to start. There's discussion forums on there, and it possibly could get a higher yield rate from people that you reach out to on this platform. LinkedIn is awesome for sure, but you're just kind of reaching out to people who may or may not write you back. But the community is of people who have agreed to join. So let's take a look at what the Eagle Exchange looks like. We'll go quickly over to that page. Okay, so once you're in, you'll see something like this. There's a bunch of different things that I can start with. I'll get matches on that page. I can explore the community and search out alumni in different facets, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, whether it's accounting, whether it's tech. I can also pose questions to this discussion, like I said. So there are a lot of different options and things I can use with this. And again, these are alumni who opted in. So it's an excellent resource to use. Let's come back to our presentation. Let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. LinkedIn, thousands and thousands of Boston College alumni on LinkedIn, well over 100,000. If I go to the Boston College page, as if Boston College were a company, I arrive here. And when I click on alumni on the left-hand side, I can very quickly sort through any parameters that I might want. I can look at where they live. I can look at where they work. I can look at what they majored in. I can look at what they say they are skilled at, a lot of different facets. So within 20 seconds, I can have a list of Boston College alumni who may live in Dallas, who may have had a finance major, and who may say that they're skilled at a particular thing. So I can do that really quickly. Those people, if I were to scroll down on LinkedIn, would then appear below that scroll. It's excellent. It's really useful. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you would even then message those alumni that you find. So let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn is awesome for sure. You're going through that platform. You have to log in. You have to send the message, the request to connect. You have to wait for that alum to write you back. It's a couple of extra steps on that alum's part to go to the app or their desktop version, web version, depending on what they do, and log in and so forth. So it's a couple of different steps. There are some handy things out there, Chrome extensions that you can add to your browser, Hunter, LinkedIn Sales Navigator Lite, and Sort. These are handy little tools that will allow you to figure out what a company's email address is and what that person's email address might be. So it can be pretty helpful. You can also use EagleLink to the same effect. If you click on the Employers tab when you're logged in, you can then go to the directory, look at all, and pull up that particular company. So that's another way to see, does that company do their emails as first name dot last name at company.com, or is it first initial last name at company.com? And getting straight to the source, getting your message, your request right in that alum's inbox can be pretty helpful and potentially move the conversation a little bit faster. So you found some alums, you are ready to reach out to them. You need to kind of first start with a pitch. What are you going to say? Then I'm going to put on hold how I'm going to request, a conversation with that alum, but I got to figure out what I'm going to pitch about myself. I got to start with that. Think short and sweet. It really is just a couple of sentences, enough to fit on a screen. Is that person really going to scroll to read more of your pitch? Probably not. Think about, what are your strengths? What are you good at? Is that important to tie in? Is that a more compelling feature about who you are that might draw that alum, compel them to write you back, to respond to your request? Think about past relevant experiences or student organizations that you're affiliated with, especially if, this is a contact that might have participated in that same student organization. And then you're going to integrate your ask. Are you looking to learn, especially as a younger student, are you looking to learn from that alum's experiences? That's a great ask. Super broad, wanting to learn from them. Again, playing that card that you are a student. Tips for breaking in. Maybe they have some tips for how to get into sports management. Some industries and certain big companies that can be tricky to get in. Maybe you have an interview coming up and your ask is interview suggestions that they may have with their company. Do be careful, that the people that you're reaching out to are not recruiters or HR people, because that could be a conflict of interest. Maybe you're first year of sophomore and you're really trying to figure out what that concentration is going to be. You're trying to decide between finance and accounting. Is operations a good idea? These are all things that might be on your mind. Even if you're thinking about adding in a second major, poli-sci or econ or computer science, finding alumni and talking to alumni about what they might have thought were the advantages and maybe some of the cons to adding in a whole second major. Maybe it's starting a passion or furthering a passion, and that alum is involved in entrepreneurial, or maybe that alum is involved in fashion. Furthering that passion can be, really a great way to reach out to that alum too. Here's an example of a pitch. So again, we're kind of building who we are before we then reach out to that alum. So here's an example of a pitch. I am a BC junior majoring in XYZ, and so-and-so suggested that I reach out to you. Last summer, I had the opportunity to do a data project at a startup in the real estate space and really enjoyed it. I'd love to get an idea on how you're using analytics at your company. Would you be open to talking with me over the phone? I realize this is a challenging time for many, and I understand if you're busy juggling working from home and other commitments. So it's short and sweet. It's probably a little bit longer than it might have been, only because it added in that last sentence to be sympathetic, empathetic, that we're all kind of doing a lot right now, and just kind of putting that out there in case the person is very limited on time. So again, short and sweet, a couple of sentences. And maybe if you're unsure, your experiences, you're a younger student, your experiences have been more in lifeguarding or food service related stuff in the summertime. Rather than going into what you've done in the summer, you can really just kind of pose it as you're interested in learning from them. That can be part of your pitch, that you have taken some classes and are trying to decide if this would be a good concentration fit, and you want to get their opinion. Go with that. Okay, so this is going to leave in. This is some great examples about how to pitch yourself, especially in the interview format too as well. So however you pitch yourself can be useful for answering that interview question of tell me about yourself. So as promised, how do you reach out to alums? What would be the messaging to use? Here's a cold contact message on LinkedIn. You get 300 characters. You're going to pretty succinctly say who you are, what you're studying. You're interested in talking with them, learning more about their company, and then some kind of little, common connection about Boston College can be pretty helpful. So again, short and sweet, and you have to kind of track it. So using the request to connect button, you throw this into there and then monitor when they accept your request to connect. Now you have direct access to them. Now you can follow up with a direct message under messaging on LinkedIn, and then bring your pitch into play and what your ask might be for that. Cold emails. We talked about sometimes if you can get some access to what their email address directly might be for work, you can then reach out, directly through email. We have a great script on our website for contacting BC alumni. Think about having an effective subject line. That could be one of the most critical things. So throwing some kind of reference to Boston College. If someone referred you to this person, a professor, your neighbor, reference them in the subject line. It's just going to make that person more apt to open the email and not treat it as spam. Address the person pretty formally by first name. And again, it's going to be similar, integrating that pitch into your email. And you're asking them, if your ask is a phone call, be open to time frame, asking them for 15 or 20 minutes. Make sure to thank them for their time. So email is a little bit more formal in your wording and your approach. And as always, you're never asking for a job or an internship. You are asking, that could come later on, certainly as you build rapport with the person, you build a relationship. What you can ask for in that initial conversation, when you do have that phone conversation or online video conversation, other people they recommend that you should reach out to, other people at that company, other people in competitor companies, other people in the industry. That's entirely appropriate to ask about. Sometimes you have to send a follow-up email. They may not get back to you on email. So if 3 to 5 days pass, 5 to 7, follow up again very politely. I know times are very strange right now, and I'm sure you have a lot going on, juggling a lot. I just wanted to see if there was any availability that we might connect over the phone. Here's an example, short and sweet. Again, it's not going to require a scroll on the person's part. It's all right there. You don't have to attach your resume. If it's a connection where they might want to have your resume, the person came through another contact of yours, that could be something that you certainly can do, but you don't want to weigh them down too much. You really just want them to quickly respond so you can set up essentially an appointment to talk with them on the phone. So now they responded, you set a time, you got to get ready for that call. It's on you. It's not like a job interview where, yes, there's preparation involved, but the questions are being asked of you. In an info chat, an informational interview, you come with the questions. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to snuff, your resume is in the most updated sense that it can be. And again, you're steering the call. The Career Center has an excellent page on info interviews, lots of questions in a bunch of different categories. Career field, organization, what's their path, their journey, recommendations to think about when you're on this path, and tips for breaking in. And again, not asking for a job. Also think about more complex questions based on their LinkedIn profile. Do they have a rich LinkedIn profile with a lot of information on it? Can you pull some more complicated, complex questions that shows you did a little bit of homework on their background? And again, here's a quick little script about how to ask for other BC alumni they think you might find helpful. Quick tips for the conversation. Think as if it were in person, you would still show up having something nice on top, not just your old hoodie. Think about having like a nice top on. What's the space that you're doing for the video call? Make sure your parents, your younger siblings also know you're going to be doing a video call or a phone call. Do you have a quiet spot in the house to do it? And make sure that you immediately thank them when you get on the phone for them, knowing that this is part of their time, in working from home, or maybe it's part of their personal time and all of that. Have your questions right in front of you, and do watch the clock. So be mindful of their time and reference. It's okay to reference. You know what? I asked you for 20 minutes and we're getting close to that. So I just want to be respectful of your time if you do need to have a hard stop after 20 minutes. Again, thanking them with an email, and if you haven't already done so, request to connect with them on LinkedIn. Maybe you are in a circumstance where you do have a virtual internship that will take place this summer. Maybe it's only a few days for an externship program that went virtual, or maybe it's now 2 weeks, or maybe it's entirely virtual over 8 or 9 weeks now. How could you have those conversations? How can you replace those conversations with people that you would have met in the hallway, people that you would have met perhaps in the parking lot, been able to be introduced to by your supervisor? So it's going to be much more on you. The key is going to be you taking charge of that and being proactive and sourcing alumni and finding other alumni to network with. So when you know you are going to have this virtual internship, go right onto LinkedIn. Who are the Boston College alumni who are listed on LinkedIn as part of that company? Who are some of the mutual contacts? Also ask your professors. I'm going to be interning at this place. It's entirely virtual. Do you happen to know anyone with that company? Using the Eagle Exchange too, we did a quick view of that. Use that as well to find other people, and then you'll have access. So assuming that stays the same, you should have access to an internal directory for the company. So maybe there are some people that aren't Boston College alumni, but are in different departments or doing different functions that you want to learn a little bit more about and get a good feel for how all these departments interact and work to carry out the company's products and services. A lot of times companies, I'm hoping they're going to be doing the same thing over the summertime. Rather than having those lunch and learns they might do on Friday, hopefully they'll do some virtual intern events. Pay attention to who the speaker is, pay attention to who's in the room, so to speak. And maybe those are people that you could follow up with to talk a little bit more about. Recruiters and your supervisors are going to want you to be interested in their company. They're going to want to sell you on their organization. Maybe they also have, if you very openly ask them, hey, I'd also love to meet some people in this particular area, who would be good to reach out to? Be transparent with them and open to, perhaps they'd be able to help you out too as well. One of the tricky things can be figuring out a time of day to do these. So, in the past, these kind of conversations might have happened before the workday over coffee or sort of during the lunch hour or, towards the end of the day at 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30. But now that doesn't necessarily exist. So do be careful of offering up time that potentially when you are expected to be really kind of working on your projects and to be logged in that way. So just be open with your supervisor if you do have a networking and informational interview, you want having a quick chat with somebody else, let that supervisor know that you're doing that and what time of day you're going to be doing that, just so there's expectations met. And it's always good to be transparent with supervisors. So those are things to be thinking about. So always thinking positive, always taking proactive measures to figure out what you can do in this virtual world. Here's some quick summer ideas, things you could do if you do have maybe a shortened internship, which leaves you much more time for the summer. Think about weekly goals. Set some weekly goals. Maybe you want to reach out to 2 or 3 alums a week. Don't worry about trying to meet a threshold of conversations that you have. Try to go more for reaching out to professionals, and that's something that you can control. Read more about your industry. Read trade publications. Look at the bulk guidebooks through the Boston College libraries. Follow companies on social media. So spend time tracking what you might be interested in and reading more about it. Think about mini projects too as well. Different companies, even nonprofits is awesome. I mentioned this at the beginning of the presentation, thinking about database help, marketing help, social media help, website development, even simple organizational projects that can be done from home for a nonprofit, or even a company, a restaurant that was intending to launch in May has now been tabled. Can you help them out with a GoFundMe project? Can you help them out with ideas for logistically figuring out delivery? These are great projects to do. Again, they can be short and quick projects, thinking local. so you can execute on them and get them moving. Maybe you want to study up on the new skill, Bloomberg, HubSpot, the inbound marketing, maybe a new programming language, maybe a foreign language you hope to study abroad in a year or two, and even personal projects. Recruiters are going to basically see how did you productively spend your summer. So even personal projects for your family, starting a blog, a vlog, different creative endeavors, that's all great stuff to add to your portfolio, what you might be doing this summer. And do keep reading This Week in CSOM. It does stop when we hit the end of the semester, when summer does come, but keep reading it for the rest of the semester up through finals. So as I mentioned, I'm Jessica Hartley. I'm one of the advisors on the CSOM Career Advising team. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. My email address is stonejg@bc.edu. So thank you for joining, and good luck.